reason I wanted to get together with all of you is because I have recently been appointed the executive director of a group called the United States Justice Foundation, which is one of the oldest and most prestigious legal foundations in the country. We specialize in constitutional law. That's all we do. That's all we've done for 37 years. I have helped found it back in about 73, 74 is when we started working on this. Same time we put together the Citizens Committee, the Right to Keep and Bear Arms. And Gary Creed took over as executive director, and I was a consultant on and off for him. Gary did a fantastic job and has kept the foundation going. We did work with attorneys all over the country, and we have cases all over the country. Gary recently fulfilled a lifelong dream and got elected district court judge in San Diego County. The liberals and the rhinos are going nuts. That wasn't supposed to happen. A hardcore conservative constitutional lawyer who's a judge, but he took over as judge, so they asked me to become the executive director. And I told him I would do that under one condition. I was not moving to California. So they agreed to let me do it from here, and I do, needless to say, we're doing a lot of traveling. I'll be out of the state most of next month, for example. But the Justice Foundation is a very important cog in the fight right now to preserve this country. We have to fight on all fronts. We have to fight at the local level, take back our school boards. We have to fight at the state level, through our legislatures, through our governors. We have to fight at the federal level, through Congress. And I know a lot of people say it doesn't do it good to talk to Congress, but it does, particularly on issues like gun control, where there's going to be some close calls coming up. We also have to fight in the courts. We cannot surrender. I've been doing this now for 38 years, fighting for the Constitution in and out of courtrooms. And I've seen how the other side works and why they keep winning and we kept losing, because they kept kicking on the door. Take the issue of abortion, for example. Nobody ever thought abortion was going to be legalized in this country. Nobody realized that there had been one case after another brought for 20 years trying to make its way to the Supreme Court. They kept losing. But the ACLU, which is extremely well funded, they probably have more money in their coffers than all the conservative legal foundations in the country put together. They're extremely well funded. They just kept pounding on the door. They finally won. They kicked the door open. They keep doing that to us, and we keep sitting back and letting it happen because we don't think it's going to really happen. Just like what's happening in this country right now. I never thought I would see anything like this. We have a rogue president who has set himself up as a de facto dictator and is bypassing Congress, is destroying the Constitution, destroying the balance of powers, and basically, as I mentioned in the speech I made the other night, when my son went to war right after 9/11 for the first time, and he's had 7 combat tours now. He's in Afghanistan as we speak. He's been in combat for a total of 75 months since 9/11. But when I first sent him off to war, somebody told me afterwards, and said, yeah, your sons are going to war, because my youngest is a Black Hawk pilot, and the rest of the country is going to the mall. And unfortunately, a lot of them are still at the mall. They don't know what's going on. So that's part of what the U.S. Justice Foundation does, is we try to educate people. I recently took over the website, and we're going to be upgrading it, putting a lot more information on it. They've taken over the printing and publication, this booklet I wrote, to try to get it distributed. We gave out, a Rotary Club in South Texas bought 500 copies and gave it out to 6 school districts. And we just had an order come from Missouri, and we've got some Tea Party groups and Republican groups that are buying the quantity to resell them for fundraisers. A lot of people just giving them out. And so, that's one of the things we're doing. We have a lot of scholars, legal scholars, that will write for our website and donate their time to help us. So what are we doing? Are we actually doing anything? Let me make it clear, this is not a fundraiser today. I'm not asking any of you for money. We represent people at no charge when there are constitutional issues involved. We take cases at no charge. We raise our money independently through private donations. We certainly don't get any government grants and wouldn't take them if they offered. But we do what needs to be done. and we have a lot of attorneys around the country. My job, the executive director, is to supervise all legal activities throughout the United States. Needless to say, I'm slightly busy. I don't know whether I'm coming or going or already been and just forgotten. But give you an example, we have filed 3 briefs in the past 2 weeks. 2 in the United States Supreme Court. 1 in support of the Defense of Marriage Act, passed by Congress, and 1 in support of Proposition 8, passed by the people of California, defining marriage. Very important. We filed a brief at the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals just a couple of days ago in one of the 4 HHS cases that we're working on. The mandate, contraception, abortion mandate that they basically put on not only religious institutions, but private companies. We filed our first. We're preparing 2 more right now, 1 for the 10th Circuit, 1 for the 4th Circuit, and we're probably going to be working on the Hobby Lobby one in another circuit. We are getting involved in the gun control issue to big time. And we're going to be very aggressive on that issue, among others. But most of you are probably aware of what has happened in Illinois. They put so many restrictions after the Supreme Court twice ruled that the Second Amendment is an individual right. People in Illinois were applying for permits to carry concealed weapons, which they have a right to do. But the Illinois legislature put so many roadblocks in the way that they couldn't get one. So they filed a suit. They lost in the district court. They won in the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, which shocked all of us, because that next to the D.C. court, the 9th Circuit in California is one of the most liberal circuits. They won. The court said that it was unconstitutional to limit the right to have a concealed weapon permit. The state has filed for a rehearing. Regardless of how it comes out, if they get their rehearing and the court reverses itself, or whether or not they go with their hearing, it's going to go to the Supreme Court. I've already contacted our specialist in the Supreme Court I work with on these type of briefs, and they're ready to go. So we're going to move on that one too. Veterans issues are big issues for us because they're connected also to the gun control situation. But we have a lot of veterans who are being denied the right to buy a firearm because of the background checks. Now why? Because they may have been diagnosed with PTSD. That's not a mental illness. They haven't been found to be a danger to themselves or others. Actually, some of them have just gotten back from combat, gone to the VA hospital, and told the doctor, I'm feeling kind of depressed. That goes in their records. They take those records and they send those records up to the National Firearm Background Check and say, you can't buy a gun. I'm working with 3 disabled veterans right now. We're looking to file a suit on their behalf. Because I don't know, these executive orders, and that's another area that we're getting into big time, but the executive order that had 23 executive actions that were going to be taken by Obama on gun control, I wrote a blog article about that, and I highlighted some of the worst ones. The very worst is number 4, which basically Obama orders the Attorney General, you know, the guy Fast and Furious thing, orders the Attorney General to review the categories of people who cannot purchase firearms to see if any dangerous people are slipping through the cracks. Is that broad enough for you? Welcome to the club. We all fall into the classification of dangerous people. Because remember Janet Napolitano said, when she first took over as part of Homeland Security Director, she put out this list of potential domestic terrorists. If you believe in the Second Amendment, you're a potential domestic terrorist. If you believe in the right to life, you're a potential domestic terrorist. If you're a veteran, particularly one just returned from Afghanistan and Iraq, you're a potential domestic terrorist. If you, lately they've updated it, if you hoard more than 7 days supply of food and water, you're a potential domestic terrorist. Now FEMA, on the other hand, tells everybody to have at least 14 days supply. So we got one federal agency telling us to hoard food and water for an emergency, and another one saying, okay, now you're going to be on the terrorist watch list. Also, the most recent one is that if you unduly believe in individual liberty and oppose big government. Now that means that potentially all of us could be be on that list. I'm about to find out, because as much as we're fighting in the courts, as much as we're going to be fighting in legislatures, I think we can win. I think we must win, but I'm still going to go buy another rifle after all these years. So I'm not putting all my eggs in one basket by any means. But that's some of the stuff that we do. Now, the executive orders, I've got a Houston attorney working with me on that. My California office is working. We're looking at those to challenge those executive orders on the period. Not just the ones on gun control, but a lot of the other issues, because they're all vague. They're all extremely vague. If you have read the information that was put out about the authorization for him to use drones to kill American citizens, the way that is worded is basically he can do anything he wants. He can order anyone killed at any time, in any place. If you look at the NDAA about the detention of American citizens, the wording is almost identically vague. Obama can do anything he wants, anytime he wants, to anybody he wants. So it's all sort of coming together as to what he's doing here. We're looking at those executive orders that are going to challenge them. In fact, we already did challenge the NDAA. I don't know if you've heard about the lawsuit that was up in Maryland, where a federal judge, and see, when I first read that revised NDAA, I said, this can't be. You know, this means Americans can be detained on American soil by the U.S. military indefinitely. Yeah. And I was told, people were contacting me and say, well, we wrote to our Republican congressman, and they said, that's not what it means. I said, that is what it means. Well, now we have a federal judge who rules that that's what it means. And she ruled it was unconstitutional. That was appealed, and the Court of Appeals reversed it. But that is our case. That is a U.S. Justice Foundation case. We handle that at the trial level, and we're still working on it. We are working here in Texas with Bill and some other people in the Cisco business. I don't know if the Senate is going to do anything about it, or if they're just going to accept Cisco and say, we'll change our ways, you know, and just let them slide. If that happens, then we've got some parents lined up who will represent suing in that case. San Antonio, I'm going to be going down there shortly to make some speeches, but also to check on some work we're doing down there. The young lady who had the tracking device at their school. You know, all of them, all the kids have to wear this little tracking device wherever they go. She objected to it. She was expelled. Now, they've since relented and transferred her to another school, but she's still supposed to wear the tracking device, and she won't do it. And so we've talked to the Rutherford Institute, and I have an attorney in Austin who works with us, who's going to be handling that. So we're doing a lot of work in the veterans cases, education, gun control, First Amendment cases. And this is where what we're trying to do with you and your groups is we want to partner up with groups around the country, conservative groups, whether you be Republican, Tea Party, whatever, or groups that just work on one issue, like gun control or right to life. Because make no mistake, you're all going to be under attack shortly. If you are 501c3 or applied for it, they're going to come after your records. They're going to find out who your members are. The IRS is going to start putting pressure on not just groups, but individual leaders of those groups. We know the Fourth Amendment's been shot all to hell. I mean, you know, right now they're tracking us in every way that you can imagine. They're trying to do more of it, particularly if you're buying firearms. So what we want to do is partner with groups so that you keep me informed if you are having any legal problems, any efforts to shut you down, make you be quiet, to do anything. We will represent you for free. We will be your legal backup. And we have the attorneys capable of doing it. So what I'd like to do is, I know Camille's got a list of everybody who's here. If you don't want me to do this, then tell them. I would like to have everybody's name and email addresses and what group you're affiliated with, so we can start a master list. And I'm not going to be sending you a whole bunch of forwards and this sort of thing. basically people subscribe to my blog, that's all they ever get is a notice that I posted a new blog article. But this doesn't have anything to do with the blog.